I think this movie could really appeal to 12-year-old boys on a number of different levels. If they market it just right.
Lots of firing, almost panic. Great! What's going on out there?
We're to fire from remote-control laser launchers. They're triangulating the mag shield.
Boom!
I'm talking about human beings, man. Life. Or, peekaboo, I kill you. Hello, Huge Movie Fanatic Nate, coming at you with the first review of 2018. It's been a long, cold, frickin' winter, and it's finally warming up, and I'm finally getting motivation to do some movie reviews, so here we are. I know all you people who watch my videos on my channel have been waiting for this review for your entire lives. I'm delivering it to you right now. I'm holding in my hand the very first video incarnation of Robot Wars that came out 25 years ago later. I don't know exactly when, probably sometime in the summer 1993. So 25 years ago, maybe later this year. And then the recently released Blu-ray that came out in December, like mid-December of 2017. Finally, my wishes have been answered. Full Moon has in fact put Robot Wars on Blu-ray in high definition glory. I'm going to review the movie and the Blu-ray. Yes, I have reviewed the movie in the past. I think in 2013 I did a solo review with Matt sitting next to me, and I didn't really so much talk about like the movie in terms of the plot or anything like that. I just kind of, you know, gave my feelings about the movie. So I thought, well, let's do a little more comprehensive review of the movie and kind of the plot points of the movie, if you will, however few there might be, and instead of, you know, just talking about my feelings about the movie, and then I can do a proper Blu-ray review of the movie as well. So on to that we go. So cut back 25 years ago to 1993. I'm 15 years old. I think sometime, it might have been, I should have researched it, but of course I didn't. It might have been May or June, April, sometime maybe around there. Robot Wars came out on VHS. At this time I'd already been a fan of Full Moon since 1990, the first release Puppet Master, so I was well aware of, you know, basically their product and their movies and stuff, and I'm pretty sure there was a trailer for this movie. The way I, you know, this is before internet, so the way I became aware of this movie, I'm pretty sure on the VHS tape of possibly Pet Sematary 2, there was a trailer for Robot Wars before the movies, you know, the trailers before the movie started, before Pet Sematary 2 started. I'm pretty sure that's how I got my first glimpse at Robot Wars, of course at the time already being a huge fan of Robot Jox and not really knowing that, you know, Charles Band was a, you know, it had anything to do with Robot Jox, but that's kind of irrelevant. But I was always a fan ever since I was a kid, and I grew up in the 80s and watching Voltron. And I always loved in Transformers and stuff, and so I always loved big robots, and I've already mentioned that I've, you know, was a huge fan of Robot Jox. So seeing the idea of this movie looked really cool, and you know, they had a really good trailer cutter back in the Full Moon days in the early 90s, and the trailer for, you know, Robot Wars looked pretty cool in the shots of the robots and stuff like that. So cut to later, whenever I eventually see this movie. Yes, 25 years later, it really doesn't hold a candle to what's going on now in particular, or even frickin' Robot Jox for that matter. But you gotta remember, this is 25 years ago. I was 15 years old. I absolutely loved this movie. You know, I didn't love, you know, all the aspects of this movie. I pretty much probably just loved the robot aspects, which unfortunately are kind of just the beginning scene, and then a little bit of the, you know, throughout the movie you do get to see a lot of the kind of whatever creature. This is it a scorpion? Yeah, I think this robot here is predominantly featured throughout the movie, is you know, modeled after the animal, the scorpion or whatever, and that robot's predominantly the one featured through the movie. And you do get a fair decent glimpse of that robot throughout the movie. You don't see this big, you know, robot, which is a retooling. Well, basically it's the Crash and Burn robot with the chest, like, you know, carved out or whatever, and then a different head put on top. Crash and Burn is a movie that Full Moon had previously put out in 1991, I want to say, or 1990, 1991, and it's just the same robot with basically a different head. in the crash and burn version, it was more like the head was kind of integrated into the chest area, and they took that out it kind of had, you know, pseudo eyes, and they took that out for this version and just put a head with like a cockpit on top for this particular version. What's really kind of annoying about the movie, before I get into the kind of the limited plot of the movie, is the robot, you know, the one that's the two-legged one that stands upright is really cool. I mean, you know, the design from Crash and Burn and the, you know, the way they retrofitted it for this movie. It's a really cool design. It's too bad that it's, you know, featured in the movie so minimally, but I guess that kind of provides the viewer with the slam bang, just spectacular, quote unquote, if you will, ending that happens in the movie. So they save, I guess, the best for last if you want to look at it in those terms. But the story of the movie, quote unquote, story of this movie is 2014. In the future, you know, at the time, which is, you know, coming very close to not 2014, 2041. I was dyslexic there. It's 2041, and it's the future, and they don't exactly paint too much of a picture of what things are like. I mean, I don't know if you know, one thing that's clearly said in the dialogue is that the northwest part of the, you know, part of the country is no longer part of the United States or something like that. You know, the movie takes place in like North Hemi. I don't know if that is what they call the Northwest. That might be what they call the Northwest part of, you know, America in this movie. It's separated from, I guess, apparently the rest of the United States in this movie in the year 2041. And basically in 1993, which is of course when this movie came out, there was this, you know, great toxic gas scare. I mean, all this stuff is just kind of, all these plot points are just, you know, things that are expressed to the viewer in, obviously it's this low budget movie, so it's expressed to the viewer in dialogue. And it's just, you hear bits and pieces throughout the movie. There's this great toxic, must have been this gas scare of 1993, where I don't know what, I guess they were, you know, the way they were just, you know, disposing of or storing toxic waste. There must have, you know, they don't go in depth on what the great toxic gas scare of 1993 was, but what ends up, you know, what we end up finding out is, you know, they from what I can tell watching the movie, what I can gather over my 25 years of watching this movie is, you know, they have this big kind of pyramid thing, which is kind of the toxic tomb, where I guess they, you know, it doesn't even play much of a point in the, or plot in the, you know, movie, but I guess it's where they store frickin', you know, all the toxic chemicals of North Hemi, you know, which is, I guess, if I'm understanding correctly, the northwestern part of, you know, what we now call the United States of America, and, you know, North America. So these are the kind of the plot points that we find out throughout the movie. So the movie is basically about Barbara Crampton and her gorgeous frickin' friend, played by Lisa Rinna at the time, and holy cow, she was really, Lisa Rinna was really at her prime, and holy crap, her face is really hot in this movie, and presumably, you know, her presumably enhanced lips, I can't say one way or another, but, you know, I guess lips like that can be real, but I'm not too sure. Regardless, they're kind of attractive lips, and she's pretty attractive in this movie. It's ironic that, in my opinion, the most attractive one is like not the lead, but the friend of, you know, the lead girl in the movie. And one, before I forget, one of the most ironic lines in the movie is when the main star, Don Michael Paul of this movie, you know, Drake, the hero of the movie, is flirting with Barbara Crampton's character at the beginning of the movie after a bumpy ride in the robot. And she comments on, the line is, "And you've got a great set of lips," he's saying to Barbara Crampton, which is the most ironic line in all of movies, because standing right next to her is her friend, played by Lisa Rinna, who is much more, you know, who's got like probably at least twice the fuller lips, and just gorgeous, much more gorgeous face in my opinion. And it's just like, oh my gosh, how, you know, how ironic. I would have changed that line to like, you got eyes, most gorgeous set of eyes or something, because it was just so ridiculous the way they cast, you know, Barbara Crampton and Lisa Rinna, and you know, they're both in the same shot when you see her reaction to his line, and it's just, oh my god, ever since I saw this movie, I was like, her lips is like non-existent compared to her friends standing right next to her. But the movie opens with this kind of cool, you know, the very first animated shot of this movie. Of course, this is made 25 years ago, so they're, you know, it's at the very beginning of you know, computer-generated effects 25 years ago. At this time is when Jurassic Park, the summer of '93 is when Jurassic Park came out. So that was the first kind of really big movie, although there'd been things like, you know, The Abyss and stuff like that, and Terminator 2. But up until like Jurassic Park, kind of the only computer-generated things were pretty much only either, you know, Lawnmower Man or Tron-ish things that were supposed to actually be computer-generated effects, or what they could only kind of do up until that point were liquidy things. So '93 was really kind of the first year of like really just full-on frickin' CG whatever creatures. So this is, so back all the, you know, low budgets, and even some of the A movies at the time were still doing stop motion animation. So there's a good chunk of, a good amount of stop motion animation in this movie for its budget. And the very first shot of this robot, I want to say it's a Maris something or other, this scorpion robot walking, it was really great when you first see it, and Drake and his buddy James Staley, who plays, you know, Stumpy or whatever, James Staley or Stolly or whatever, is his sidekick, and they're in the robot, and basically on the top of the robot there's this passenger compartment. So I don't know, you know, if this robot was originally, you know, made for something to do with the disposal of toxic waste. I don't know. And then it was later on retrofitted to be a transport. The movie doesn't really solidify exactly what the hell's going on, but what's going on in the movie is there's basically tours. You know, they take people to and from, I don't know, North Hemi in the robot, and they take people to and from North Hemi to this, you know, what they call Crystal Vista, which is like basically a ghost town that they kind of preserved a town in the movie, you know, that preserved exactly how it existed in 1993, which makes no sense because there's a theater that has Puppet Master, I don't know, 54 or something on the marquee. And that makes sense if they screwed up when they did this movie. It took me 25 years to even to actually realize this mistake that I just realized recently, that, like, you know, obviously in 2041 there could be 54 Puppet Master movies, and we're well on the way to that mark. But the place where they screwed up is that theater that has the marquee of Puppet Master 54 is in the town of Crystal Vista, which is supposed to look exactly like it looked in '93, in which case there'd only be 3 Puppet Master movies. So that's kind of a screw up. It took me, you know, although it took me 25 years to figure that out, that's a screw up in the movie. So they, you know, so basically this scorpion robot is kind of a, you know, it's a transport robot they use in the movie to take people to and from, I guess, North Hemi, to and from Crystal Vista. They do tours. It's a robot outfitted with weapons. So there's also these punks called the Centros. I don't know if, you know, what the hell they're supposed to be, like a, you know, frickin' whatever, terrorist. Luckily the word terrorist isn't, or terrorism is not said in the movie, which I give the movie props for. But the Centros are just, I don't know if they're like a separatist. I don't know what the hell they are. They're the bad guys or pesky, you know, opposition in this movie or whatever. And then you've got these I can't even remember what the Asians in this movie are called. You know, I've seen it a bazillion times for 25 years. You'd think I'd know. So how's this for a revelation? I took a look at the back of the Blu-ray, and I'm actually going to read this to you. It basically explains everything I've been trying to explain to you, and some plot points that I never even knew up until this point. Are you ready? In a gassed, ravaged future hell, the United States is divided into 2 opposing blocks, the North Hemi and the Eastern Alliance, and targeting them both are roving bands of pirates known as the Centros. While mega robots were once employed for war, peace between the blocks has dictated that the mechanized monsters are no more, save for the lone remaining functioning specimen, the Maris II, now utilized as a tourist attraction and piloted by the rough and tumble Drake. But when a warmongering dignitary steals the Maris II and threatens to wage a new apocalyptic battle, Drake revives another dormant mega-robot, the Mega-1, and drags it out into the desert to take down the deadly scorpion-like Maris II, with the fate of what's left of the world hanging in the balance. So that's the whole premise of Robot Wars. I could have just done that and saved myself a lot of time trying to figure it out myself. So basically in the movie, I guess the United States is divided into North Hemi and the Eastern Alliance, and I guess I don't know if the Eastern Alliance is completely Asian or whatever, but in this movie nothing but Asians represent the Eastern Alliance, including a guy from Robot Jocks, the guy who played, I can't remember what his name, Matsumoto or whatever, the Asian guy from Robot Jocks. He's like we end up finding out that, you know, it turns out to be the, you know, aggressor in this movie. He's the bad guy who tries to basically steal the Maris 2 and kidnaps the passengers that happen to be, you know, taking a tour to Crystal Vista. This is taking way too long to describe. So, I mean, all this is in like a freaking 71-minute movie, and it's probably only 61 minutes with if you include opening and closing credits. This is a very short movie, and you know, the reason why probably is because they spent so much money on, you know, the animation. This is one of the only full moon movies to feature kind of more or less extensive blue screen work and stuff like that. So, you know, they probably spent maybe more money on this movie than they would normally spend on a full moon movie. Charlie Band kind of wanted to go a little bit of the extra mile to try to deliver as good as he could to what they did with Robot Jocks. Unfortunately, alas, that didn't happen. So at the end of the movie, of course, you know, good prevails. What's so pathetic about this movie is, you know, Don Michael Paul and Barbara Crampton have this one meeting at the beginning of the movie, and halfway through the movie, you know, the character of Drake, who's Don Michael Paul, is at the bar with Stumpy, and he's like, I don't need her, Stumpy. It's just like as if it's a woman he's been in a relationship with for years. I mean, he talked to her once and she hit him, and, you know, it's just, the movie is so laughable, and just, you know, from a perspective of someone who's older than 15 years old, that it's just so funny. But you know, as so often is the case, I can go on and on and on and on and on and talk about a movie that, you know, forever that I'm interested in. You probably have other things to do today or tonight or whenever you're watching this, so I think I will spare you from all the details. I mean, the thing about this movie is it's a relatively competent premise, where it's, you know, it's kind of cool how the United States is divided into basically two different nations, and, you know, the Centrals are the pirates, and they kind of, I think the Centrals are, I don't know if they cause problems for the Eastern Alliance as well, but in the movie we spend time in only North Hemi. We don't spend any time in, you know, Eastern Alliance side of the country or whatever. But so, you know, the Centrals, you know, presumably the Centrals, you know, F with both, you know, Eastern Alliance and North Hemi, I would imagine. But Drake, of course, saves the day. One of the cool points about this movie is, you know, generations past, you know, Stumpy talks about his grandfather being the ones who actually back in the day operated like the Mega 1 robot, which ends up, this is the one standing on its 2 feet, or there's the Mega 1. That one ended up being buried secretly, I guess, by, you know, Stumpy's grandparents or grandpa and his, you know, friends or acquaintances or whatever at the time. And it's really kind of cool how we find out in the movie, albeit basically just nothing through dialogue, that, you know, this mega robot from an era gone by is kind of buried secretly under a school and covered with this Infrasorb 8, which is a material that prohibits, you know, satellite pictures to see, you know, through it. If it's on the ground, you can't see what's under it, to kind of hide the mega robot. So all these kind of plot points are really kind of cool, and with a bigger budget or something like this might actually be a really kind of a cool movie. As I said in my, I already reviewed this movie in 2013, I think, in July. So as I said then, I think I gave it 2 stars. I'm going to stand by the 2 stars as being just 2 stars out of 4, as being just an absolute just romp of, you know, I've watched this Blu-ray, like I said in my winter 2018 update video, more times than I care to admit already, and I only got it like in, I think, January or something like that. But since the movie's only like an hour long, you know, it's easy to watch it over and over and over. But I guess that does it for my review of the movie. Unfortunately, you know, in closing with my review of the movie, the robot, stuff isn't quite up to par as it is in Robot Jox. There is a lot of stop motion animation in this movie for its budget and its length, so you know you will give that to the movie. You can tell like some of the stop motion isn't as good as some of the others, so you've got that going, and they do a lot of kind of puppet towards the end battle, the puppet work, puppeteering, just live action robot models and stuff like that as well. So before I end the review, the score, which I actually have the CD of, by David Arkenstone or something I want to say, was done actually not too far from here in Wisconsin, not too far from where I am. Is really pretty cool. And David Arkenstone did several scores for Full Moon back in the early 90s. I think he did like Mandroid and this and possibly others, I don't know. But he had a really kind of a cool sound, and for a while there did at least 2 Full Moon movies, maybe more, I don't know. But that's my review of the movie Robot Wars. Like I say, I could go on and on and on and on about it. There's so many things that are just absolutely funny and ridiculous and stuff, but alas, I will spare you. And now on to my review of the Blu-ray. I did a video last summer, I think it was May or something like that, or June, I don't know when it was, where I was talking about that Full Moon Direct had uploaded a new HD master to their site, so it was only a matter of time. I speculated at the time that it was only a matter of time before Blu-ray would come out. I didn't think it'd take that long, but regardless, it is out. Finally, our Christmas lists, if you will, have been answered. Robot Wars is now on Blu-ray. So basically what I did is I watched it again last night and took note of all of the things all of the screw-ups I could see from the Blu-ray that are different than the movie as it's existed, the 25, basically, well, at the time, 24 years up until this point. So basically what Full Moon has been doing a lot recently, I don't think they did it from the get-go of making Blu-rays, but what they're doing a lot is they're following suit with real studios like Warner Brothers and all these big studios that are doing this thing, which I absolutely hate and other people do as well, which is the replacing of original logos. So the first thing off the bat that makes this Blu-ray transfer, or Blu-ray different than the way this movie has existed up until this point, is they replace the original Full Moon kind of early 90s logo, which is far better, I think, to the current one with the bats and all this bullshit. With they replace that with the current new frickin' logo with the bats and stuff like that. So for all you people who like the original logo, that's straight off the bat, that's gone. Straight off the bat, huh? That's gone. It seems to me when the title of Robot Wars appears, it appears late in the Blu-ray than it does on all of the transfers that existed before. That's also a big problem. One of the biggest problems with this whole release, I'll just say now and get it over with, is the audio they got for this particular release is absolutely the worst audio this movie has ever existed in. It's touted, of course, as being 2-channel stereo and then a 5.1 in addition. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the general quality of the audio they're using. It's absolutely horrid, and the best way I can do to describe it without showing it to you is, let's say you have a sustained, at the beginning of the movie there's, in the music or whatever, you can tell it the most easy. So if you have a sustained note, like in the beginning it's like, dun, dun, dun. Let's say it's like that, and that last note would be sustained. And that's how it was originally in the CD and all the releases of Robot Wars up until now. Well, this movie, the audio of the whole movie, and it pretty much goes throughout the whole movie, and sometimes you can't tell because it's worse in music with sustained notes. In this version it'd be like, so it's da, da, and then with the third, this is the example of what the sound is like. Da, there's this pulsating, something happened to whatever audio they're using in this movie. And there's this, if you have a sustained note or something like that in this movie, you'll become aware of it. The audio is like, and it's just so freaking annoying. And as soon as you get this Blu-ray, which you've been waiting your whole life for, and it's straight off the bat at the beginning, music, it's this horrible quality freaking audio. I have no idea, I've got I've got everything Robot Wars that they ever put out. I've got a poster, I've got 4 VHSs. This is 2 of the VHSs right here. The other 3 are clamshell. I've got a Laserdisc, I've got the crappy DVD they put out, I got a CD. Did I mention the theatrical the video store poster? And now the Blu-ray, I have everything Robot Wars that was ever sold. So I mean, obviously, and I've, you know, long time ago I put the Laserdisc on DVD so I could have like that best quality version with the sound, you know, and the ultra stereo Laserdisc sound mix on DVD. And like, if they would only have contacted me, I could have like sent them a DVD of my rip of the Laserdisc so they could have used that audio, which is far superior, unfortunately, to the audio on this Blu-ray. It's absolutely a shame that, like so many full moon Blu-rays, you get a better picture and the sound is never as good, in my opinion, as it was in the original release, be it, you know, VHS or particularly Laserdisc. The best way, in my opinion, to hear a full moon movie is if you can get a hold of the original Laserdisc. That's the only, or the best way to hear the sound as it was originally intended. And the same thing goes with, like, for the original VHS, I suppose, but since Laserdisc is digital audio, that's going to be even better. So that's that's the biggest problem with this Blu-ray, is that the sound quality is absolutely atrocious. You know, if you have notes or stuff like that, I mean, you can hear it in dialogue if they happen to be saying something at the. So it's this rhythmic thing, and it's presumably probably going on throughout the whole entire movie. And the only reason you can either hear it or not is depending on if there's music or not, or, you know, whatever's going on or being said, or audio at the time. So that's one of the big, you know, problems with this Blu-ray. I was talking about other things that I noticed. Differences between the, you know, original release and this one. The sound's just a big bummer. There's a robot stomp, you know, at the very beginning while the Maris 2 is waiting to attack, you know, decide whether or not he's going to attack the Centrals at the beginning, where this robot, you know, the leg comes down. In the Blu-ray, it's the sync with the sound of it coming down is out of sync. I don't know why. The line where they're actually engaging the Centrals at the beginning of the movie, Drake's like, you know, we're in the middle of a shitstorm, hold on, or, you know, dream on, Stumpy, we're in the middle of a shitstorm. That line is completely gone. You know, they just took it out and left the music and, you know, and or sound effects, whatever is happening at the time, go over it. And I don't understand if that was a deliberate thing to take out a swear word. I mean, the movie was always PG anyway, and there's like at least 2 shits in the movie, I think. And it's funny because now on the Blu-ray it says it's rated R, and then they take out the swear words. It's just like, I don't know if it was you know, if the person who made the Blu-ray was some kind of religious nut who didn't like swear words, or if it was a conscious choice to remove that line, or it was a mistake, or I don't know what the hell happened. But I think that's the only line of dialogue from, you know, the original release that is actually no longer, actually, well, we'll get to it later on. I'm doing this, these differences that I noticed in order from the beginning of the movie towards the end. So that line is gone. Oh, okay, yeah, then we go on to the next bit of dialogue, albeit it's kind of dialogue from extras. I think the movie is pretty much, you know, the same way I remember it up until the point of the group we see in Crystal Vista, the scenes of just the extras walking through Crystal Vista, and you can get little bits of dialogue, particularly when that one woman who looks at the flag and is like, what's this? Oh, it's a flag. So basically, you know, all that dialogue is gone. I don't know if they lost the sound to those scenes of the, you know, the tourists walking through Crystal Vista and, you know, looking in the diner or whatever, but they, you know, for this Blu-ray release, they put just random frickin', you know, opening credit Robot Wars music, or just random Robot Wars music over those brief scenes. That's really not that big a deal, because those scenes I kind of skip anyway nowadays. Oh yeah, and I think the last thing, or one of the last things to be changed, is when Wally is commandeered the Maris 2 and goes to the toxic tomb to presumably blow it up. The sound of, you know, we see when we cut to the shot of the Maris 2 sitting, you know, outside of the toxic tomb pyramid, and presumably like getting his little gun ready to shoot. The original sound there is missing. They put some other kind of sci-fi goofy sound there in its place. I don't know. Like I say, I would have gladly sent them a DVD of my ripped, you know, the Laserdisc that I put on DVD. They could have had a much better sound, and they could have had a complete sound for this Blu-ray release. It's just absolutely ridiculous to me that this stuff has to happen and they can be so sloppy. That's the last thing, the last change that I can remember being on the Blu-ray, the last change from the original release. It does include the whole video zone. It's pathetic again because it's taken from VHS and is actually a part of the beginning of the video zone where it's glitchy. So they do include the whole video zone, you know, rather than just the making of portion, but it's from VHS, and there's a glitch at the beginning of it. And so I covered the kind of the bad parts, so let's cover the good parts, because there are good parts, because this is the most amazing this movie has ever, you know, the image quality of this movie is absolutely fantastic, and I never necessarily thought, although I hoped I'd see Robot Wars like this someday. It's absolutely a treat to be able to see it this way. I don't know if this is, you know, there's different ways to do, you know, high resolution scans of film, and I don't know if this is, I would imagine that these full moon ones, because I think it costs more money and it takes more time to do like a frame by frame scan, so I think there are some scans that actually just go, they just play the film at the normal speed and scan it that way. I would assume that's the way Full Moon, or at least this particular title, was done, because in several of the shots, and I don't know about every one, but a lot of the times, if a shot transitions from one shot to the next, it's like, I don't know, when it cuts to the next shot, it's like a little bit of a glitch, or, you know, a little bit of a something after a transition to a lot of shots. So you're going to be able to tell it more if there's moving, you know, people or moving stuff on the screen, or if camera's moving or whatever when they cut to a different shot. There's a brief moment of time where it's like, I don't know, some kind of weird, you know, glitch or something like that, as if, you know, I don't know, whatever. It looks like a scan that was probably done just, you know, actual real-time 24 frames a second versus, you know, move a frame ahead, take a picture, move a frame ahead, take a picture, or whatever. Unfortunately, you know, Albert Band, of course, is no longer with us to do a commentary. I was hoping, you know, in the past, Charles Band, like on Puppet Master 2, has done a solo commentary because Dave Allen was no longer alive to do one for that, but then in recent commentaries on Blu-rays I've heard of him, he says he doesn't like to do solo ones, so obviously he, you know, I'm sure he would have done a commentary if Don Michael Paul would have come around to do a commentary with them, but alas, he's, you know, busy directing Tremors sequels, I guess. Don Michael Paul, unbeknownst to me up until recently, has directed, or at least one of the most recent Tremors sequels, which I had no idea. So Don Michael Paul didn't even barely like to be a part of the making of behind-the-scenes footage while he was on set, so he sure as hell ain't going to come by to specifically talk about a movie he did 25 years ago. So there's no commentary. There's this video, this new interview with Charles Band called, you know, The Wizard of Wars, Remembering David Allen, where Charles Band's just talking about David Allen or whatever. It says vintage 1997 Full Moon promo and an original video zone, and like so many times they've got just random Full Moon trailers on this Blu-ray as well. I think I was commenting about the image quality and I got sidetracked. Absolutely fantastic. I got sidetracked about the glitches. Absolutely fantastic. I never thought in a million years I'd ever be able to see Robot Wars like this, aside from, of course, you know, the audio being basically, you know, more or less the worst way we've ever heard this movie before. Unfortunately, you got to really start to expect that with Full Moon Blu-rays. You're going to improve the image, but the sound is most likely going to, you know, get really crappy. And this is probably this might be the worst, you know, the worst audio on a Full Moon Blu-ray ever. I mean, I can deal with like a track that was originally stereo turned to mono, but don't use an audio track that's just like, whether it's stereo or mono, regardless, it just sounds like crap with that pulsating, just crap. Anyway, this review went on way too long. That's my review of Robot Wars, and the Blu-ray looks absolutely striking, looks really cool, and, you know, Lisa Rinna is even more attractive now in high definition, and you can pause and look at her face with their pouty lips and, you know, enjoy that for as long as, I guess, your DVD or Blu-ray player will stay paused on that particular image or whatever. But thank you very much. Gosh, I'll tell you what, anyone who's still watching this review, thank you very much for doing so, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.
What else? That's it?
Well, for today.
Oh man, that was easy. I'm out of here.
It is very easy.
Next time, hold it for him, Ron. Thank you.
How come nobody's ready? I mean, they've had all morning to get ready. Here she is.
Sorry.
There's Pam, and there's Esther. Hi, sweetheart.
Hi there. And you, my friend, need a nice pack. Come on, let's get out of here.
Hey, Rocky, it wasn't my fault.
She has her eyes on something?
Well, she does. You have your eyes on Plunkett.
Oh, I have my eyes on Plunkett. I don't end up with him, though. I think he gets a headbutt in the next scene.
He gets what?
He gets a headbutt with a gun.
Oh, does he die?
No, he
Oh.
doesn't die. I don't end up with anybody. They kind of just keep me celibate in this film.
Oh, darn.
Which is...
Though, maybe for a sequel.
Oh, there
Oh,
you
yeah.
go. The Annie and Plunkett show. I don't know. All right. I'll leave now. Yes, bye. Bye. See, we're really good friends.
Shimku, stick fighting, Korean stick fighting.
Do you know how to do that, or are you just doing that for the film?
I have absolutely no idea how to do it, but I faked it.
Improv.
I gave it my best shot. They showed me a few moves, and I tried to do it the best I could. There's a homeless person. He's in Beverly Hills. And he comes up to this man's door, and he knocks on it. He says, "Excuse me, sir, you know, I'm homeless, but I want to work, and I want to make some money, and you know, I'm on the level and everything, and, you know, I just need to work so I can make some money and buy some food." And the man says, "Okay, you seem like a nice enough guy. You know, here's a bucket of green paint. Go out back and paint my porch." So 2 hours go by, and the guy comes back with the empty bucket of paint. He gives it to the guy, and he says, "You know, here's your bucket of paint. And I'm all finished. And oh, by the way, that's not a Porsche you have back there. It's a Ferrari." He painted the guy's Porsche green. Not the Porsche. He painted the Ferrari.
That's an
Don't you think
Albert
that's
joke.
funny? That's Albert Band. That's his sense of humor. I would have told you another story, but that's the only clean one I could think of. Yeah, it's the first hardware film I've ever been in. You know, it's the star of the movie is really the robots and all the action and the you know, the fun that goes on with all that, and so I think that's really what makes this film special, and I've never done that before. They're building the set for the Puppet Master 4 over here. Or you get to perform a part, or you bring some kind of a... I can't even hear what I'm saying. Anyway, I was just saying, hopefully one time you get to, you know, do something that you feel really... These guys are installing a Blaupunk stereo over there into the